Today, we're diving into a really powerful message from Reverend Hyung Joo Kim of the Lord Jesus Korean Church. This is the 7th sermon in his series about the most important things when it comes to church life, and this one, it tackles a huge question: how the gospel actually gives us the power to break free from our struggles. Let's get right into it. So, let's start with something I think we can all relate to. You know what you should be doing, right? You genuinely want to change, but somehow you find yourself stuck in the same loop, making the same mistakes over and over again. It is so frustrating, and it leads to this question that so many of us ask: why am I stuck? Can I really, truly change? To get to the bottom of that, Reverend Kim's sermon gives us a fantastic roadmap. First, we'll talk about this universal struggle. Then, we're going to redefine sin as a dominating power. After that, we'll see the gospel's liberating power, learn how to wield that new power, and finally, see how it all boils down to your life, your choice. All right, so let's start with that feeling. That feeling we all know so well, the deep frustration of knowing exactly what the right thing to do is, but for some reason, we just can't do it. It's this constant internal battle that just leaves you feeling defeated. And that feeling leads right to the core question of this entire sermon, the one it tackles head-on. Can I truly change? The answer the sermon gives is a resounding yes, but maybe not in the way you'd think. See, to find the right solution, we first have to understand the real problem. Reverend Kim makes it clear that we often completely misunderstand what we're actually up against. We tend to think of our failures as just, simple mistakes or maybe some kind of character flaw. But the sermon says the diagnosis goes much deeper than that. And this is a huge point. The sermon redefines sin, or joy in Korean. It's not just a slip-up. It's an active force. It has its own him, which means power, and its own gwonse, which is authority. And its goal is to wong norit, to literally reign over us like a king. So we're not talking about a bad habit. We're talking about a dominating power. To help us picture how this power works, Reverend Kim shares this incredible analogy from a nature documentary. Think about a predator hunting its prey. It doesn't just run straight at it, no. It stalks it, it approaches slowly, and it actually paralyzes the animal with fear until it's too frozen to even try to escape. That's exactly how sin works. It gets in our head, floods us with fear or anxiety, and traps us before we even know it's happening. And if that wasn't clear enough, here's another amazing analogy: the circus elephant. You've got this massive, powerful animal held in place by a tiny chain and a small stake in the ground. How is that possible? Well, it's because when that elephant was just a baby, that same chain was too strong for it to break. It learned it was helpless. So now, even though it could snap that chain in a second, the memory of its past failure keeps it a prisoner. Sin does the exact same thing to us. This dominating power isn't some abstract theological idea. It shows up in our lives in very real, tangible ways. Those feelings of depression that just steal all our joy. That constant irritation that gets under our skin. The outbursts of anger we can't seem to control. And just a deep spiritual laziness that makes us feel disconnected. According to the sermon, these aren't just bad moods, they're symptoms. Okay, wow. That sounds pretty overwhelming, doesn't it? But right here is where the entire message pivots from the problem to the solution. And the good news, the gospel, is that this isn't a battle we have to go out and fight. It's a victory that has already been won for us. This is the absolute heart of it. Right from Romans chapter 8, you have been set free. The sermon points out that in the Korean text, the phrase 해방 됐습니다 is in the past tense. It's a done deal. This isn't something you're still working to achieve. It is a finished event. Your freedom isn't a future goal. It's a present reality you can walk in right now. So what does this freedom actually mean? Well, it means a complete and total identity swap. Our old identity was Jae-ui Chong, literally a slave to sin. But through the gospel, that's gone. We've been given a brand new identity, 하나님의 자녀, a child of God. This isn't just about tweaking your behavior. It's about a fundamental change in who you are at your core. So, if the victory is already won and our identity is totally new, how do we make that real in our day-to-day lives? How do we stop feeling like that elephant tied to the stake? Well, this is where the sermon gets super practical. The sermon gives us a really clear 3-step framework for actually using this new power. It's a game plan. It starts with the declaration of the mouth, moves to the dedication of the body, and is kept strong by building a system of grace. Step 1 is all about the power of what you say. It's about actively, audibly, out loud, declaring this truth over yourself every single day, especially when you feel weakest. I am not a slave to sin, but a child of God. I am under grace. And this isn't just wishful thinking. It's reminding your own soul of your true legal identity. Step 2 takes us from words to actions. The sermon uses this really powerful Korean word for our body, mugi, which means weapon. The big question then becomes, in whose hands will this weapon be used? You get to choose. You can dedicate your mouth to be an instrument of comfort, not slander. Your hands can be an instrument of giving, not harming. And your feet an instrument for guidance, not wrongdoing. You actively choose. And step 3 is what makes this all last. We can't just rely on a single moment of feeling inspired. We have to build a system of grace through consistent habits. I love how the sermon puts it. Repetition is power. Consistency is skill. By building a daily rhythm of prayer or worship, you create an environment where your new identity can actually flourish. So, what happens when you actually start living this way? When you know who you are, declare it out loud, and dedicate your actions to that truth. The result is nothing short of a profound transformation. We're not just talking about stopping a few bad habits. We're talking about the very fabric of your emotional and spiritual life starting to change. The sermon paints this incredible before and after picture. Where there was once the heavy grip of depression, there can be heavenly joy. Where there was constant irritation, there can be gentleness and patience. Anger can be transformed into love and self-control. And that spiritual laziness can become genuine passion and devotion. This is the real fruit of living under grace. So, the bottom line is this. Overcoming sin is not about gritting your teeth and just trying harder. The sermon is crystal clear. That path just leads to exhaustion. Real, lasting victory comes from knowing your true identity, declaring it, and then living it out day by day. And that brings us to the final, challenging question the sermon leaves us with. It completely reframes our entire struggle. Every single day, your life, your thoughts, your words, your body, is a weapon. The choice is yours. In whose hands will you place it today? Thanks for joining us for this explainer from the Lord Jesus Korean Church English Podcast. See you next week.